Let's kick things off by taking a look at the day's headlines. North Korea lobbed 2 more missiles into the East Sea on Thursday. The regime says it was a successful test of a super-large multiple rocket launcher. The latest twist in the impeachment inquiry saga in the US. The House has voted to formalize the impeachment inquiry into President Trump. He takes to Twitter to call it the greatest witch hunt in American history. Plus, it's that time of the year again, discounts galore, as the 2019 Korea Sale Festa kicks off its 3-week run. Shoppers can enjoy discounts of up to 50% on a variety of goods. Let's start, though, with the air pollution that's cloaking parts of South Korea yet again. Unfortunately, a fine dust advisory is in place for Seoul and the southern island of Jeju as we speak. According to the Seoul Metropolitan Government, the advisory for PM10, or fine dust particles with a diameter of 10 micrometers or smaller, was issued in the capital on Thursday evening at around 8 p.m. Korea time. As of a couple of hours ago, the fine dust level in Seoul stood at almost 130 micrograms per cubic meter. Jeju issued its alert this morning. Officials are urging people with health issues and vulnerable people like children and seniors to refrain from going outdoors until the dust clears. Those heading out are advised to wear a mask like that gentleman there. US President Donald Trump has nominated his special representative for North Korea, Stephen Biegun, to become his next Deputy Secretary of State. If he passes his confirmation hearing, Biegun will take over from John Sullivan, who's been tapped to be the next US ambassador to Russia. However, Trump said Biegun will retain a key responsibility for diplomacy with North Korea, even if he's confirmed to his new role. Biegun became Washington's point man on North Korea in 2018 to lead efforts to negotiate the regime's denuclearization. Now, North Korea conducted yet another missile test on Thursday, this one coming less than a month since the previous one. According to the South Korean military, the North fired 2 projectiles from the west of the country into the East Sea. Oh Jang-hee with this report.
North Korea carried out its 12th projectile test so far this year on Thursday. Pyongyang fired 2 unidentified short-range projectiles from its western Pyeongan-namdo province into the East Sea Thursday afternoon. According to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, the projectiles flew roughly 370 kilometers and reached an altitude of 90 kilometers. The launch comes 29 days after the regime fired a 북극성-3 submarine-launched ballistic missile earlier this month. South Korea's military is monitoring the movements north of the border and maintaining its readiness posture in case the regime fires additional projectiles. It's also analyzing the projectiles with the U.S. Seoul's presidential office convened a National Security Council meeting to analyze the North's intentions. The South Korean government expressed strong concerns over the latest projectile test and urged the North for an immediate stop, stressing that such acts do not help in easing tensions on the Korean peninsula. The launch of projectiles comes a day after North Korean leader Kim Jong-un sent a message of condolences over the death of President Moon Jae-in's mother. Experts say the immediate weapon test shows that the condolences message from Kim was in and of itself just a condolences. They add the message was nothing more than Kim's courtesy towards Moon, whom he had a summit with 3 times last year, and shouldn't be interpreted as a will to improve inter-Korean ties. Oh Jang-hee, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea has given itself a bit of a pat on the back for its latest missile launches. The regime's state-run Korean Central Broadcasting Committee said Friday that the projectiles fired the previous day were from its newly developed multiple rocket launcher system. They said the firing was to check the real-time capability of the North's super-large multiple rocket launcher system. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was not present at the test firing but was said to be satisfied. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has condemned North Korea for its missile launch, saying the action threatens the peace and security of Japan as well as the wider region. Abe made the remarks Thursday evening after Tokyo confirmed the missiles had fallen outside of Japan's exclusive economic zone. He said Tokyo is determined to closely cooperate with the United States, South Korea and other allies to protect people's lives. Abe's mentioning of an alliance with South Korea is very rare, considering the Japanese government usually only mentions the US in such statements. A senior US official also told Seoul-based Yonhap news agency that Washington is keeping an eye on the situation and working closely with South Korea and Japan. Now, President Moon Jae-in returned to the top office last night after attending the funeral of his mother, who died earlier this week in Busan. Although his official schedule has been cleared, the president is likely to catch up on state affairs and prepare for his trip to Thailand for several ASEAN-related meetings. He will leave for Bangkok on Sunday and ask for ASEAN members' support. So this month's Korea-ASEAN Special Summit in Busan is a success. Now, President Moon faces a major shake-up in his diplomatic calendar this month following Chile's sudden cancellation of the APEC summit. Watchers say it could force him to take a rather different tact on his peace and denuclearization drive with North Korea. Shin Se-min with the details.
An unexpected change for South Korean leader Moon Jae-in in regards to his diplomatic schedule for the month of November. It had been confirmed by South Korea's presidential office that the president would visit Thailand for ASEAN-related meetings, travel to the APEC summit in Chile, and make a stop in Mexico on his way there. There is also the Korea-ASEAN Special Summit in the country's southern port city of Busan toward the end of the month. But with Wednesday's announcement by the Chilean president that he was scrapping the APEC summit in Santiago due to intensifying anti-government protests, the doors to President Moon's planned sideline meetings with other world leaders also slammed shut. Although South Korea's presidential office has said it would closely monitor the cancellation, reviving the APEC summit at this late stage looks highly unlikely. It was thought the South Korean president would meet with U.S. President Donald Trump in Chile for talks on speeding up denuclearization talks with North Korea. There could have also been sideline talks with the leaders of China and Russia, both deemed to be critical partners in efforts related to the North. On top of that, efforts to soothe Seoul's relations with Japan were also expected to be on the cards amid their trade spat. With the termination date of their bilateral intelligence sharing pact known as GSOMIA scheduled for just days after the now canceled APEC summit, there was speculation the leaders of South Korea and Japan would hold sideline talks in Chile. There are also questions hanging over whether President Moon will now travel to Mexico. The presidential office has yet to confirm whether it will go ahead or not. The sudden change in plans leaves a lot of unknowns in major diplomatic projects. What remains intact, however, is the Moon administration's stern resolve in overcoming what the president had expressed as the last hurdle in the denuclearization talks and its unchanging stance in repairing ties with Japan through dialogue. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now, a firefighting helicopter has crashed into the sea near Korea's easternmost island of Dokdo less than 3 minutes after taking off, and unfortunately several people are missing. According to the National Fire Agency, an emergency helicopter which was carrying 7 people, including a patient, crashed on Thursday night at around 11:30 Korea time. Authorities immediately dispatched naval patrol boats and aircraft to the site as they conducted a search and rescue mission. Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon also ordered full efforts to find survivors who are still unaccounted for. Winds around Dokdo were thought to have been blowing at around 10 to 12 meters a second at the time of the accident. Now, South Korea's exports fell in October for the 11th month in a row amid slowing global trade. Data released by the Trade Ministry showed on Friday that the country's outbound shipments slumped nearly 15% on year to some $46 billion in October. Other than the base effect, the ministry attributed the fall to the impact of the ongoing trade spat between the US and China. Semiconductor and petroleum exports declined, but vessels, computers and biohealth products, they rebounded. Imports, they also dropped around 15% over the same period to some $41 billion. Now, if you're watching us in Korea and are in the mood for some discounts, and let's face it, who isn't? Today would be the perfect time to grab that plastic or stack of cash and hit the shops. That's because the country's biggest nationwide sales event kicks off today. However, if you are busy for whatever reason on this Friday, never fear, as the festival is on for the next 3 weeks. Kim Bok-young reports.
Shoppers in South Korea are in for some of the biggest promotions and discounts of the year.
The 2019 Korea Sale Festa will last for 3 weeks, starting from this Friday, with many large retailers, online shopping malls, and traditional markets taking part.
This will be the sale's largest edition yet, with over 600 companies participating. And unlike previous years, the festival is led by the businesses themselves. At Thursday's opening ceremony, representatives of business, industry, and the government were all hopeful that the sale will help revitalize consumption.
I expect the Korea Sale Festa will bring consumers happiness when go shopping and give companies a chance to re-energize.
I really hope everyone finds some joy in this November's Korean Sale Festa.
For foreign shoppers, retailers are offering some special discounts.
I would like to buy Korean cosmetic. As you know that Korean cosmetic is popular and famous in Asia, so we come here to buy, cosmetic because it have the good price rather than in other countries, especially in Vietnam.
I'd like to buy some jewelry, a big diamond for my wife, and also some electronic products.
Major department stores and duty-free shops are offering discounts of up to 50% on certain cosmetics and fashion items. Details on the promotions and where to get them are available on the festival's website in Korean, English, Japanese, and Chinese. Kim Bok-young, Arirang News.
Now we're going to start our world news with the drama unfolding in Washington. Democrats in the US House of Representatives have taken a pretty big step in their impeachment effort by approving rules for the next steps of inquiry into President Trump's alleged attempt to have a foreign government, namely Ukraine, investigate his political rivals, namely Joe Biden. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Kim Dami. So Dami, this was the chamber's first formal vote in a fight that could actually end up stretching into election year itself.
Right, Mark. Democrats secured enough vote on Thursday to pass a legislation setting up next steps that will expedite the impeachment inquiry. The vote was 232 to 196, with, not surprisingly, all Republicans voting against the resolution. The passed rules lay out detailed impeachment process, including switching closed-door interviews with witnesses to public hearings, and ultimately possible votes on whether to recommend President Trump's removal from office. As the first formal test of support for the impeachment probe, the 8-page-long resolutions will now allow Democrats push further into achieving their ultimate goal, President Trump's impeachment.
And today, we move further down the path in our inquiry by putting forth our procedures, which are very transparent and open, and frankly, more transparent, more open, giving more privileges to the president and his argument than were given in the past.
President Trump fired back on Twitter, calling the efforts the greatest witch hunt in American history. It's expected to take weeks or even more before the House decides whether to actually vote on the impeachment. If the House does vote for the impeachment, the Republican Senate will hold a trial to decide on whether to remove President Trump from office. The Islamic State has confirmed the death of its former leader and named his replacement. In an audio message released on Thursday, the terror organization also sent a fresh warning to the U.S. Lee Seung-jae reports.
The Islamic State group has confirmed the death of its former leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, while announcing its new leader as Abu Ibrahim al-Hashemi al-Qurashi. The news came Thursday in an audio message released by the terror group.
O Muslims, the Mujahideen, in the name of God, the soldiers of the Islamic State and its congregation, we give you condolences over the renewing Imam, the knowledgeable, the worker, the worshipper, the Emir of the believers, and the Caliph of the Muslims. The Mujahid Sheikh Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, Ibrahim ibn Awad al-Badri al-Husayni al-Qurasi, may God accept him.
The message was recorded by the group's new spokesman Abu Hamza al-Karshi. He replaces Abu Hassan al-Mujir, who was also killed by U.S. forces in northern Syria. The new spokesman also sent a warning to the U.S., saying ISIS is still expanding worldwide, and said the group will seek revenge.
Do not rejoice, America, over the death of Sheikh al-Baghdadi, and do not forget the coups of death at his hands. Do you not realize, America, that the Islamic State today stands at the threshold of Europe and Central Africa?
Meanwhile, the Pentagon released video and images of the al-Baghdadi raid on Wednesday. U.S. forces can be seen taking small arms fire from several locations as their helicopters approached al-Baghdadi's safe house. Video shot from an overhead drone also showed aerial strikes carried out by F-15 fighter jets and MQ-9 Reaper drones blowing up the site after it was cleared. Hiding out for the last 5 years, al-Baghdadi's death marks the end of a long search to take out the world's most wanted terrorist. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Despite riot police warnings, pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong stayed brave by wearing now-banned face masks on Halloween. That said, protesters covering their faces were prevented from entering Lang Kwai Fong, a traditional spot to celebrate Halloween. And riot police fired tear gas at protesters gathered in Kowloon. Also on Thursday, a Hong Kong court banned the posting and spreading of online messages inciting violence. Hong Kong protesters say they plan to boycott China's Alibaba e-commerce platform Taobao during the upcoming Double 11 shopping festival on November 11th.
Time now for our Life and Info segment where we focus on information useful for your everyday life. And today's topic is particularly useful, if I say so myself. So winter is basically around the corner now. We are on the first day of November, and it is unofficially flu season here in South Korea. To help us ward off getting sick, we have our reporter Oh Soo-young in the studio today, who has some tips for us. So Soo-young, we all know that prevention is generally better than cure, but many people get flu shots every year. Many people do. But why should people actually get these vaccines instead of just treating flu like they might treat the common cold?
Well, that's a very good question, Mark. I was actually wondering the same thing myself, as I actually never get flu shots. But the thing is, there are some very large distinctions between the cold and the flu, although you might really think that it's the same thing. And I myself really can't tell the difference. But according to experts, there are some distinctions. Colds are usually milder than the flu, and those who have colds are more likely to have a runny or stuffy nose. They don't normally result in serious health problems. But flus, on the other hand, and they come with fever and muscle aches and could cause serious complications.
When you catch a cold, you can take a rest at home and take some medicine to get better. However, when you have the flu, which is caused by the influenza virus, you may need antibiotics. Also, catching the flu could even worsen chronic medical conditions like asthma and heart disease, or cause health complications in those with weak immune systems.
So unless you've had allergic reactions to flu before, or if you're allergic to chicken eggs, you should really get a vaccine shot if you're over 6 months old.
If you're over 6 months?
If you're over 6 months old, which you
so pretty much
obviously
everyone.
aren't, Mark.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. I was just saying to you before we came on air that I've been really lucky never to have a serious bout of the flu, but it can lay people out for quite a long time compared to a cold. There is no denying that. But if we get the flu shot then, how long does it take before we are actually protected from the flu, and how long of a protection period does it give us?
It usually takes about 2 weeks to build up immunity in your system, and also the shots last for about 6 months. That's why you're recommended to get flu shots every year.
Right.
And experts say that you should actually get the flu shot before mid-November.
And do you have any other tips about how we could possibly ward off catching the flu or containing it if we already think we have the flu, or the doctors told us we have the flu? Because in this case, caring is better than sharing, right?
Exactly. Well, the best thing you can do really is to really take care of yourself. So make sure that you're eating and sleeping well to keep your immunity strong, and also having a very strong sense of personal hygiene too is very important to prevent yourself from getting sick and preventing others from catching it if you actually are ill.
Avoid touching your face, mouth, nose, or eyes after contact with the virus. Washing your hands is very important. And of course, if you have the flu, try to keep it to yourself. Coughing and sneezing will spread it, so cover your mouth with tissues or wear a mask.
Okay, very good. So personal hygiene, very important to prevent catching the flu or spreading it around. Finally then, you can get free flu shots in certain cases in South Korea. Who exactly qualifies for a shot where you don't have to pay for it?
Children aged 12 and over, senior citizens.
12 and under, don't you mean?
Children aged 12 and under,
right.
And people over the age of 65, as well as expectant mothers, they qualify for a free shot. And if you're one of the people that qualify, then you can get a free vaccine shot at one of the 25,000 public health centres in the country. But do make sure that you take your ID with you.
Yeah, my sons have already had their free shots this year. Like you, though, Soo-young, I normally take my chances and don't get the flu shots. But if you do go and get the free flu shots, make sure you make an appointment beforehand, because these clinics can get very, very busy at this time of year. As always, Soo-young, thank you very much for coming in and sharing this information with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Korea is struggling with high levels of yellow dust mixed with toxic smog. Especially a thick haze has engulfed the Jeju island, with a fine dust advisory being issued since this morning. Meanwhile, the capital area and parts of Gangwon-do province are still under fine dust advisories. But we could breathe a little easier as the day goes on, as a northerly winds blowing, washing the dust away. But do check the dust levels frequently. Air quality will improve over the weekend, but those in Gwangju and Jeollabuk-do province will have lingering pollution even through Saturday. Mostly sunny skies are in store, but a toxic haze hangs over most regions. blurring the skyline, and top temperatures will range between 19 and 23 degrees Celsius in most parts of the country. The East Coast will see rain on Sunday, while we will have fairly sunny skies over the weekend for most regions, with wide temperature gaps to continue for the time being. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now on this Friday morning here in Seoul. Stay tuned to Arirang TV. Our next newscast is coming up at noon Korea time in around an hour and a half from now. So until then, goodbye.
'19 overseas